Hey guys, welcome to another of the tropical birding tours. This time is the last of the season for sure, and this is me, Andres, again. I'm going to present you the Andes Introtour, the extended version, I call it. There is another previous version that we did of the Andes Introtour that I invite you to see. It's by Jose. But this one is my version that will include a couple more things than the normal tour because I will extend myself to the far northwest of Ecuador and a couple things about Quito and some flowers as well. So I hope you like it. Let's go into it. Okay, hi there now. Let's start with the location where the tour is going to happen and some data about Ecuador. And this is Ecuador right here, tiny country in South America, and this is the capital, Quito, crossed by the equator line, and in fact is due to the equator line that Ecuador gets its name. We are in the torrid zone of the world, here in the tropics, and is a small country. The size compares typically to the US state of Colorado or UK in general. We have about 17 million people, friendly people, very nice people, helpful, very, very welcoming, and you will see that on your tour. Our currency, and that's one of the beauties of the things for you guys to travel to Ecuador, is that we have the US dollar, so it's easy to get exchange if you come from Europe, or it's easy for Americans to come and use their own currency. Electricity, the same as in the United States, 110 volts, and there are tons of direct flights from many places in the world directly to Quito daily. So it's very easy to go by in Ecuador and to come to Ecuador. The country has a couple of interesting things. I am outlining here a couple of things related to the diversity that we have in Ecuador is extreme. It's very, very high diversity. In terms of birds, for instance, we have almost 1,700 birds now in Ecuador. Every year we discover new birds for the country that have not been recorded before, even new records for South America that have occurred only in Ecuador. Is quite interesting. And this is due to several things. Being in the equator line is the main thing. Being in the tropics is of course quite diverse because our temperatures are stable. The coldest site normally has an average temperature is 45 Fahrenheit, and the hottest average temperature of 77. So there is not really a lot of variation from the hottest month to the coldest month in any particular site. The average temperature will vary a couple of degrees only. The rainfall is very, very varied. We have deserts and we have rainforests, and two things are very important for the diversity. These two currents, one that comes from the south and is very cold, the Humboldt current, and the other one, the Panama current, that comes from the north. And this brings humidity to this area in the north coast of Ecuador, and this one brings dryness into the dry coast of Ecuador. So it's interesting. We have the Andes here that cross from north to south or south to north the country, and this is basically two main chains of mountains with inter-Andean valleys in the center. I'll go deeper on that later on, but this is kind of a profile that you can see. The Andes are a big input of diversity into the country as well. I'll be explaining that in a minute. Okay. The uniform temperature, the marine currents being in the equator line, and the relief of the Andes bring a lot of biodiversity to the country, as I was telling you, because with uniform temperature we don't have limiting factors of extreme temperatures that will make our birds flee in winter or summer. So that doesn't happen. They stay here and they concentrate here, and through the thousands of years they diversify and that. The marine currents, as I told you, they bring dryness and wetness, and so they bring different ecosystems for birds to adapt to. And the latitude, being there for millions of years, means that we have a uniform weather. For instance, during glaciations, and that were areas where species would hide from the last ice age, for instance. So this brings also a lot of diversity. Plus, the relief of the Andes is probably the most dramatic of the factors that brings diversity here, because it brings us varied ecosystems due to the relief, and that is exactly what this tour is all about, the relief of the Andes. Okay, all this combined brings a ton of biodiversity into the country. Okay, this tour that I'm going to be talking about, the intro tour, also has the chance to have a extended version that we call it the Northwest Ecuador. That does the normal intro tour plus adds 3 or 4 days around the areas of Playa de Oro in the extreme far northwest of Ecuador and Chikal in these areas here, after a few rarities that are very localized and very beautiful, like this golden chested tanager is a picture from my friend Andrew Spencer. Okay. But I was telling you about this particular tour, the Andes Intro Tour. The beauty of it is that in 6 birding days, it is 8 days in total, arrival and departure in each side, and 6 birding days that occur in this west slope of the Andes. Just to put you on the profile here, as I was saying, we'll spend 6 days in this slope here in the lowlands of this area, based out of one only lodge, the famous Tandayapa Bird Lodge. Okay, the famous Tandayapa Bird Lodge here is great because it's located right in the middle of the slope, and so in a day tour, and in any given day tour, we can go from here to that it is about 6,000 feet. We can go to 11 or 12,000, to 9,000, to 3,000. To 1,000 feet. That is the lowest that we bird at in this tour, in less than an hour and a half. So basically, we unpack once and repack at the end of the tour once more, and that is it. And in between, you get about 330 species of birds. It's phenomenal, and that is being done only in this tiny region from Quito, the capital. In here, this is the northwest area of Ecuador, and we're only scratching the surface of the country and still getting a ton of birds like that, you see? So yeah, let's start with the tour now, after this introduction. Yes, I have to add that we also have a short extension that takes us, instead of the western slope here, it takes us just briefly here for 2 days into the high Andes of the north part of the country and the upper cloud forest in the east side of the Andes. So technically you will be in the Amazon for a couple days as well. Okay, and this map here, and I'll be using it quite a little bit so that I can show you where we will be locating, where we will be birding at. Comes from my book that I published a couple years ago. I wrote it and invite you to check it out on Amazon as well if you want. There's a couple of pages in where I explain a few things about the diversity and the rainfall, and a couple of the plates inside, because it has mammals, reptiles, amphibians, and of course birds, but not all the birds, just the most common birds that any naturalist visitor, is not for bird watchers necessarily, will see during a visit to Ecuador. Okay, so let's start, and we'll start now with the city of Quito, where the tour starts and ends. Quito is a beautiful city. It's located at 9,000 feet, 2,800 meters above sea level, and it is surrounded by a lot of volcanoes and beautiful landscapes. This is a picture taken from my house of the Cayambe Volcano here, 5,800 meters of elevation almost. And this is another of the volcanoes that I have from my house that I can see every day when there's no clouds, of course. This is the Cotopaxi Volcano, just a bit higher than the previous one even. And this is the Pichincha Volcano. Is a picture taken from, going to my house back from the tour, in fact. And we bird around these areas at some point during the tour. Okay, so that gives you a little bit of an example of what Quito is. It's famous for being located in the equator line, and there is a monument to it in this tour we'll be crossing the equator line some 20 times, probably more. I don't know, quite a bit. It actually snakes around the equator line. The city was the first city to be declared UNESCO's National Heritage Site in history, so this is due to their historical center of Quito. We call it the Centro Histórico, but it is the district of churches. These all churches are located in the same street, about 7 of those. All of them from different architecture styles, and that the colonial town, as we call it in English. They are just beautiful. A ton of churches, and people can just walk around and just relax and enjoy. So a lot of people, to acclimatize a little bit, come here to Quito and stays a couple of days before they start this tour, enjoying the city and just getting used to the altitude. Okay, and now we'll start with Yanakocha. So this beautiful reserve of Yanacocha, it's located at about 11,000 feet, 3,300 meters of elevation in the west slope of the Andes. And I'll be using Google Earth to show you a little bit around. This is the big picture, and these are the tracks that we'll be doing during this tour. We start in Quito here, a very nice hotel that we stay at. The city is very modern and has a ton of very, very beautiful hotels. That's one of the ones that we use. And just to show you around, from Quito, big metropolis, about 3 million people, we take off and go to Yanacocha, which is a mountain reserve located right here. So going back to the relief, we will be birding for the first morning around here. That's enough to get a lot of birds from this elevation. And to tell you, this tour is interesting because the birds cannot distribute in elevation or altitudinal belts. Okay, so there is birds here that are not present anywhere else in the slope, birds here that are not present anywhere else in the slope, and the same with every altitudinal belt. And that's what we will be doing in this tour. And we'll start with the highest the first day, and progressively we'll be moving down through the days in this particular tour. Okay, so in Yanacocha, we go through some beautiful landscapes. Oof. It's truly magnific. This is another view of the same Cayambe Volcano that I was showing you before. This is on the way to Yanacocha. And this is the reserve itself. It's just phenomenal. You're birding here. This mountain forest is just phenomenal. It's difficult to really focus on the birds when you have views like this. Really, just astonishing. You want to stop every time to take some pictures on the way, but we kind of have to make it quickly before the birds stop being very responsive. And then we can go to this reserve that it is beautiful. It holds a great amount of these colorful mountain tanagers, like black-chested mountain tanagers. This is the case of that one. Hooded mountain tanager, scarlet-bellied mountain tanager, for instance, or buff-breasted mountain tanagers. All those are just incredible. I'll be showing you a hooded mountain tanager later on. I didn't put a picture of that one here. And golden-crested tanagers are amongst the coolest of the tanagers in the area. And that's a cool thing about this place. You just bump into flocks. You can walk for 20, 30 an hour, not hearing or seeing much, and then out of the sudden, you get all these tanagers in one flock. Also, the people from Yanacocha, in the reserve, they have put some feeders, and you can get these brush finches that are really cool. Rufous-naped or yellow-breasted, called like that, and this gray-browed yellow finch here. Sometimes they fight for some bananas. The feeders also bring nectar eaters, like this guy here, that it is a flower parasite, masked flower piercer, together with glossy flower piercers that we see in this area. They parasite flowers and they get the nectar without pollinating the flowers, which is not the case for the hummingbirds that are also very famous in this reserve here. This is a golden-breasted puffleg, yeah, this is a velvet breast, a beautiful mountain velvet breast female. Uh, it used to be in the feeders quite a bit, this rainbow bearded thornbill, but lately has been absent from the feeders. I don't know why. Another of the pufflegs here, the sapphire vented puffleg, is probably the most common. And the rarest I don't have a picture of is the black breasted puffleg, which is very, very, very range restricted and very, very rare, endangered. And we eventually, if you are extremely lucky, can see it in this reserve during one of these tours. Yeah. The most common, probably, in this reserve is the shining sunbeam, one of the coolest names of all the hummingbirds in the world, I have to say. I love it. There's another picture of it. You will see that in this particular tour, it's also an extended version because I have so many pictures, because I have done this tour so many times that I have 2 or 3 pictures of some birds sometimes, so I hope you enjoy it. 3, as you can see. But this is the coolest one. This is the one that when people ask at the beginning of the tour, we're just riding the bus and they tell me, are we gonna see a swordbill hummingbird? And I said, no. But yeah, you will. No, this is a really cool bird. It's one of the best birds in the world for sure, swordbill hummingbird. Oof, what a beast. And then we go for other things that can be found here and there in the reserve. We basically walk about 3 miles that morning. It's kind of exhausting, but it is the most demanding of the activities that we'll do on this tour, looking for things like this barred fruit eater, and we can bump into crowned chat tyrants or spectacled white starts. And eventually, these tyrants are also really cool. The strict-necked bush tyrant and white-banded tyranniolets. If you're lucky, you can see antpittas here. This is a really tough one, a chestnut named antpitta. They are feeding that one in a particular spot at times, so we might eventually go there if people really, really want to go get that one. But Rufus antpitta is probably most likely to be seen in the reserve. And we basically have 2 diurnal, or well, semi-diurnal owls, the Andean pygmy owl that occurs here during the day, and it's not really a diurnal owl or semi-diurnal, but white-throated screech owl has been seen or tends to be around here during the day as well. It's just a beautiful, beautiful bird. So after this morning spent here in Yanakocha, we move on and go down the slope. Okay? So after a superb morning in this reserve, we move down the slope. So what we will be doing is progressively go down in the afternoon through this slope here, and moving down towards Tandayapa Bird Lodge. You see, we go through these quite winding roads, whoosh, and then we go into some beautiful cloud forest here. It's just precious. It's just beautiful, 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 and stay here in Tandayapa Bird Lodge, which is going to be our base to explore in the rest of the days the whole region here. Okay, so this is the Tandayapa Bird Lodge in here. Let me show you a little bit about it. This is our last tour. The participants from our last tour in Tandayapa, they were very happy. This is taken the day we left. So you can see this is not taken the day they came in, but the day they left. So still some smiles. It shows I did something good there. Good job, I guess. And this is the staff. Very, very nice staff. We have them for 16 years or so. This is Richard here, Angel, Rosita. This is a client of ours, a good friend of ours that visited there for their 2nd or 3rd time. A very nice lady. We're missing another one. Isabel is supposed to be in this picture as well, but she's not. I'm taking her place there. And the lodge has very nice facilities, and this is particularly famous for hummingbirds, and people come here to do some bird photography using these flashes. These multi-flash photography is an interesting thing. And also we spend just time around the lodge and have several things that help us taking pictures of the birds. We have a moth trap, and we have some feeders, and we have a bunch of stuff there. Let me show you a little bit about Tandayapa on the website so that you know that is not just any given lodge that will spend 5 nights there. We spend 5 nights there in a very, very nice lodge. So this is Tandayapa Bird Lodge. I'll start playing some music that we normally play at the lodge as well, some Ecuadorian music. And this is the thing, the lodge is located right in the middle of some forest. It's beautiful. It has nice facilities. This is the common area right there where we normally do our checklist. It's a beautiful place. And this is the patio where we get the hummingbirds, and we're in the cloud forest. You can see everything that is around the lodge now is quite green, pristine. Tons of trees. You see from your beds you have the trees and birds around it. This was all clear pastures when we started the lodge, and now it is all regenerated into beautiful secondary forest that brings a ton of hummingbirds and a ton of other birds, like Andean Cock-of-the-Rock nests on the property every year. It's just a beautiful place. And on top of that, what is interesting is that we have lately hired these young chefs that come and work in Tandayapa, and so the food is absolutely phenomenal. So you spend 5 nights here in Tandayapa eating like a king. Oh man, I love doing this tour. Only due to the food. It's just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, and this is part of the lodge. I was there once visiting, and we have these hummingbirds that are all over the place, and they are just playful and so beautiful. Look at this. Sometimes they just perch on your finger. This is a booted racquetail, me holding it at times. You can see the backdrop, the scenario behind is just gorgeous. It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So let's go right into it. And this is a picture of one of the feeders. Any given minute, we have about 15 species any given time at the lodge. And we can see here 4 species, if not 5. Let's see, lesser violet here. There's a coronet right in here, booted racquetails, males, and a couple of females, and a rufous-tailed hummingbird. But as I told you, we can have a ton, 15 any given day, basically. And there are some species that are present some days or some seasons, and some that are absent, and it goes varying. But any given day, we have 15. The cutest probably is this one here, the booted racquetail. Such a beautiful bird, male and female. Is probably amongst the top 5 for a lot of people that visit and do this tour, the Introtour. It's just amazing. Sometimes if I see that a lot of people are very keen on taking photos, I put some flowers just next to the feeders, and we do some hummingbird shooting sessions just for them. Not necessarily with equipment that I was showing you, the multi-flash, but just like putting some flowers next to the feeders. It works a wonder. Some localized choco endemics. This is the brown Inca. Some brown violet ears here, and this is just an annoying bird, just photobombs everyone with a racket tail. We have wood nymphs. The crowned wood nymph is around. Some seasons also we can have Empress Brilliant, and both are males. This is another of the choco endemics together with Empress Brilliant and brown violet ear. This is a white tip, purple bipped white tip is around all the time as well. Beautiful bird. And we also have a purple-throated wood stars, as you can see here in these photo sessions that I was telling you that I sometimes do. Rufous-tailed hummingbird is quite a widespread hummingbird in the tropics. Previously green violet ear, now is split into a lesser violet ear. This is a beauty, a velvet purple coronet. I am just going through all the hummingbirds that we normally go for, and I'll show you afterwards all the birds that we see in the grounds of the hotel as well, so that you can see what Tandayapa is all about. It's famous for hummingbirds, that's why I'm starting with that. This is a violet-tailed sylph, a male. It's just, yeah, another of the typically top 5 birds for our visitors. White-necked Jacobin, beautiful, beautiful bird, quite widespread as well though. And then we have other sets of feeders. We have some toucan barbets that go visit every day around the moth traps. It's just a phenomenal bird, the toucan barbet. Also a big target for most people that want to see that come here to do this tour. Flame-faced tanager, among my favorite tanagers. Phenomenal. Oddly named golden-naped tanager. There's a lot of blue tanagers, so this one here is called the golden-naped. silver-throated tanagers, and black-capped tanagers. All those come to the feeders that we have right there in the lodge. It's just beautiful. Blue-winged mountain tanager as well goes there to the lodge. Is a mountain tanager that occurs in lower elevations compared to the others that we saw in Yanakocha. And we also have this toucanet that spends some time, and sometimes you can get really close to the crimson-rumped toucanet. This one has been seen snatching hummingbirds, just eating them out of the hummingbird feeders from time to time. It's nasty, nasty. And we have lemon-rumped tanagers, just cool tanagers, and another species of barbet from a different family though. This is the red-headed barbit. Okay, we have a local rufous mudmot that nests right in the doorway of our lodge. It's just a beautiful bird. And rarely ever we can have even these weird subspecies of russet-backed oropendula that occurs in the west side of the Andes. Plus, not only birds attract or feeders attract, but also things like a kinkajou by night. I have seen four-eyed opossums. I have seen this olingo, and even tyras. Typically, we have squirrels there as well, eating the food of the hummingbirds. But in any case, this is another of the things that is interesting that we have placed. This is a blind that we always visit once in this tour. Early in the morning, before breakfast, we go for it. And this is a nice setting where we put a moth trap there, and we are all sitting inside. So the birds don't really see us, but we do see them. And we, like that, managed to get some birds that would be very difficult, very shy, like a chestnut-cap puffbird, for instance, and russet crown warblers. They are not particularly rare, but normally you don't get these views or these opportunities to photograph them even. This is with the light of the moth trap only, early in the day. We also have from time to time a scaled antpitta, which is a difficult antpitta to get, and we sometimes get it in this blind. We put some worms for it there, and some months a year it comes in. Another warbler that occurs here in this blind is this three-striped warbler, just devouring there a moth. And lastly, we have this cool, immaculate, it used to be called, now called Zeledon's antbird. This is male. Oh, another one. Uniform antrike also comes here. There's about 15 species that we can see in this blind. Not all of them every time we visit, but it varies from season to season. And white-throated quail dove also shows up at the blind there. Just a cool bird. So in the blind area, not attracted by the blind particularly, we sometimes get this mottled owl, and even Colombian screech owl tends to show up in there. Okay. So afterwards, after being at the lodge and being just mind blown by all the birds that we can just see around the lodge itself, we take a walk, and one of the day tours that we do is just around the Tandayapa Valley. And we find in here in the lower Tandayapa Valley a bunch of these iconic birds of the cloud forest. And this is the famous Andean Cock-of-the-Rock, but it's not famous because of the female. This is the female. It's famous because of the male. Okay, there's a lake around there, and we see it all the time. We have some rare birds also, like beautiful jay is one of the famous birds that occur in the Tandayapa Valley. And sometimes the rare black and chestnut eagle can show up there in the lower valley. And the cloud forest pygmy owl is actually a juvenile of a cloud forest pygmy owl that occurs in the valley as well. It's famous for two species of quetzals. This is the rarest one, crested quetzal, a picture from my colleague Nick Athanas. And this is the golden-headed quetzal. Okay, another of the iconic birds, and amongst the favorite birds of people after the tour, is this lyre-tailed nightjar. Rarely we find it in a day roost, you can see, but we have a stakeout by night that we go see them display every night. Is very cool, very cool bird to see. There's a couple of rarities that can show up, like semi-colored hawk and scaled fruit eaters. This is a female and this is a male. All of these are in the lower parts of the Tandayapa Valley, and there's plenty of flocks. All these birds come in flocks. That's the thing. We can be again quiet for a while and then boom, a flock with all these birds, or many of these birds, a ton of tanagers, 4 nards like this, a scaly-throated foliage cleaner, a ton of different things. This is a typical ringbill of flocks in this particular spot, the red-faced spinetail. And this one here is not in flocks, but it is close to water. Typically it's ladybacked chat tyrant. A couple hummingbirds don't go to feeders because they have different feeding strategies and they don't like feeders too much. This is a dagger-billed, called now Choco dagger-billed, previously called wedge-billed hummingbird. It is a flower parasite. It pierces the base of the flower, gets the nectar, doesn't pollinate. Sneaky. And this one doesn't like feeders too much. Sometimes it does, but for the most part it doesn't. It's a tawny-bellied hermit, can be found in the forest. Okay, tricolored brush finches are amongst the flock birds that we can see there. That's one of the beautiful things about this. You can just be walking there and boom, all of a sudden 20-25 species flock. Another of the ringbills of flocks. This is the white-tailed Tyrannial. There is a river that crosses right there, the Alambi River and the Tandayapa River before, that can hold white-capped dippers. And this is a very, very nice bird. I was lucky with this one to take a picture once in the Tandayapa Valley. It's just a cool bird. Slow shutter speed, nice effect on the water. And the water also can hold the cool torrent duck. Female, this one, the previous was a male. Just a beautiful bird. And then we move up the valley and bird another area that only like 2,000 feet of elevation difference makes a big difference in terms of wildlife. So the upper Tandayapa Valley, it is dominated by bamboo, and it is just very, very nice. And it is the very only place in which we can actually see the very rare and range restricted tanager finch in Ecuador. This is it. It's a beautiful, beautiful bird. Check out the distribution in Ecuador. Is a nothing spot on the map, and the area is very dense in bamboo, and that is really good for this bird here, the ocellated tapaculo, normally very, very difficult to see. And another of the targets of the upper Tandayapa Valley is the plate-billed mountain toucan, another of the top 5 birds. I'm gonna do a 10-bird top 5, I think, by the end of this tour. This is just a cool bird, and this is why it is called a plate-billed mountain toucan. Look at this, these are the plates. You see? Lucky shot, this one I got. There are a couple of hummingbirds that are only in the upper valley in this tour, so we go for them, like colored Inca and gorgeted woodstar. Okay, so this adds quite a bit to a tour that will end up with over 30 species of hummingbirds, close to 40 species of hummingbirds in the tour. And then there is a couple of tanagers that move in flocks that are only up here for this tour, and we go for them, like capped conebill. This is a male. Grass green tanager is one of the cool things that we try to find in the upper valley. That's a beautiful bird. And hooded mountain tanager, another of the mountain tanagers. You see all these just 2,000 feet lower, we don't see them. Barrel spangled tanager is among the smaller of the tanagers because the previous tanagers were really big. So yeah, the bamboo holds a few species that are bamboo specialists, like blushcap, or like this plain-tailed wren, or this long-tailed antbird, now called streak-headed antbird, and the striped tree hunters. They are all in bamboo specialized. Okay, there's a couple of species of woodpeckers that are here in the upper valley, better than in other parts of the valley, like the crimson mantled woodpecker. It's a beautiful bird, this one very striking. And the hulking, powerful woodpecker. This is a female, I love it, with a black crest. And this is the male of the same powerful, but the female, I don't know, it just nicer looking to me. This is a ringbill of flocks typically. This is a cinnamon flycatcher. Whenever I hear one, I kind of rush to where it is so that I can see if there's a flock going on with that one. And we typically have around the flocks this green and black fruit eater. Masked trogons are amongst the coolest birds that we can see in this forest as well. This is the female, the previous was the male. This is another picture of the male. I was saying that I have done this tour so many times, I have plenty of pictures of a lot of these birds. A couple of tyrants that are occurring here also. Yellow-bellied chat tyrant, and this is one of my favorites, is a rufous-headed pygmy tyrant. Such a cool bird, such a cool bird. Okay. This is one very obscure, the streak-necked flycatcher. It's a lot of fruit for a flycatcher. It's quite interesting. And turquoise jays are in the upper valley that don't occur lower down in the valley. Another day, after being in the Tandayapa Valley for quite a bit, so put you on the map, the Tandayapa Bird Lodge is here, and the lower parts we bird around these areas here, and the upper parts is here, the upper Tandayapa Valley. So we do this one day the lower, one day the upper, and then one of the days that we visit other spots that we take the car and leave quite early and do a full day long is in the area of Mashpee. So we take the car and we do this right here, and we drop in elevation some 3,000 feet more or less, and we spend time in Mashpee area, in the Mashpee-Amagusa area. This is the foothills already. To put you on the context here, we're talking about, summarizing, Quito, Yanakocha, Tandayapa right here, and now we're going to Mashpee, which is right in the foothills, kind of at the base of the Andes, but not quite in the lowlands yet. Okay, so this is where we will be when we're talking about the Mashpee area. And this is very famous for rarities and very localized birds like the choco vireo. A nice picture from my colleague Jose. Never managed a picture like this. Jose is just lucky. Doesn't have talent, it's just pure luck, this guy. Now he's amazing. Also from Jose, this is a black solitaire. Another of the rare localized difficult birds. And this is my picture, happily. This is an orange-breasted fruit eater, which is quite rare elsewhere, but in Mashpee it is fairly common, so it's great to go for that one. This is a male, okay? Female is a bit more obscured, all green and a little bit of yellow there, but this is a striking male. All these rare birds, like this subspecies of buffy tufted chick that we call it Pacific tufted chick, can be found here. This is a rose-faced parrot, a very rare one, and this particular, a very wet one. Another of the weird South American birds, the solitaire, rufous brown solitaire, that has a very patchy distribution in South America, kind of a weird bird, really very rare and rarely ever seen even in Mashpee. And a uniform tree hunter, another of the rare choco endemics. Okay, even I have seen there the black and white hawk eagle, which is very rare for northwest Ecuador. It is widely distributed, but it's quite rare for these areas. I've seen it in Mashpee. And then, happily, there's a reserve there that is owned by a local person called Sergio, which is called the Amagusa Reserve, that has these feeders that are superb, attracting some of the rarest and some of the most difficult birds, like the Toucan barbet that you saw there is not that rare, but Black Chin Mountain Tanager at this distance is quite difficult, and he has it there. It's a beautiful bird. This is the mountain tanager that reaches the lowest in elevation. And then flame-faced tanager again, because you cannot get tired of flame-faced tanagers. And this one is a cool one, eh? Glistening green tanager, choco endemic. I'll be explaining about the choco in a minute when we go through that. And a golden colored honey creeper, which in the northwest of Ecuador is quite rare. It goes to feeders there, and we manage these pictures. Eh? Another of the choco endemic birds is the moss-backed tanager, this one here. Rufous-throated tanager, a near endemic to the choco. Beautiful bird. You can see that one shouting at us. Actually, he's eating a bit of banana there. And if we have a chance, if the day allows, since we are already this far out, after an hour and a half driving from Tandayapa to get to these areas and spending the full time there, if there's a special request, really, we go and take this spur detour to get to the oilbird cave. And this is the oilbird, a very, very weird bird. This cave is quite accessible, quite nice, and it'll give you a chance to see these alien looking birds. This normal, we don't do it in the Andes Introtour, and this is again the extended version, so don't get your hopes up there. But yeah, this is the best eyes in the nature in terms of collecting light. Okay, and it is called oilbird because the chicks of this bird are fed with palm nuts that are very oily, and they get fat because they don't fly yet. And people have boiled them in the past in some communities, and they get the oil to use for lamps and stuff. That's why it's called the oilbird. And then I'll be explaining to you why this is called the Choco region. Okay, this particular region, and I was explaining to you that it is humid in the north part of Ecuador, the northwest part of Ecuador, due to the current of Panama. It's called the Choco. It is shared between Ecuador and Colombia, a bit in the extreme west of Panama, extreme east of Panama, sorry. And this area, very, very humid, is a highly endemic area. This means that there's a ton of birds that are unique to there. And in part it's because of all the humidity and the vegetable formations there. This is the cloud forest. It's just very, very beautiful. We have tree ferns. And I'll be just going through some pictures of some cool shots and orchids that, and flowers in general, they have taken through the years in here. Bromeliads are typical from these areas because of the epiphytic ways they climb on top of trees, and in the slopes they can get the sun in many places. And then the orchids, like these ones, are so cool in the cloud forest of Ecuador. This is not a fern really, but kind of close to a fern, as Selaginella. And orchids. And this is a cool fern really. I was saying that another orchid, the Choco region is very, very rich in terms of flora, in terms of fauna, and we are happy to have that and be part of that with Tandayapa Bird Lodge, because this is a unique area in the world, the Choco region. Okay, some more orchids. This is actually not an orchid, just to refresh yourselves from all these orchids. It's a passion flower. Such a beautiful bird. But then it's more orchids, and this is, even the nettles are these beautiful here. This is a type of nettle, yeah, don't touch it. Okay. So in another of the day tours, after heading back to Tandayapa and spending another wonderful night there with a wonderful meal, we do one day trip in which we go the farthest down here, winding roads, until this spot here, and from here on the roads, even though they look windy here, they are not. They are just flat, and they are much more straight out and much faster to go through. And we go and visit Rio Silanche Bird Sanctuary in the morning, and I tend to do the Milpe Bird Sanctuary in the foothills at the same elevation you see in as Mashpee, in the afternoon Milpe. Okay, so this, we're going to start with Rio Silanche to put you on the profile. We're going down here, 1,000 foot of elevation, and we have a complete new set of birds due to that. There's an area of the reserve that not a lot of people know is the Rio Silanche, the river. Okay, and the people that the area that everybody knows is the Canopy Tower. We're here just at the base of this kind of short canopy tower, but it allows us to see a lot of these cool canopy birds that, let's start with tanagers, like these Dacnys, yellow tufted Dacnys or black-faced Dacnys. They go in flocks. Amazing. Blue-necked tanager is one of those. This tower allows us to see these things. Emerald tanager is quite rare, but we get it there. Also blue whisker tanager, we can eventually get it there. It's a rare bird as well. Gray and gold tanager, kind of a weird name for that one, but yeah, it's a cool bird. You can see a bit of the gold here in the chest. And Gira tanager can show up in the area as well. All these occur in the canopies. This is probably my favorite of the area, the scarlet-bellied Dacnys, the male. And there's a couple more things that occur in the tanager, in the canopy, that are not tanagers, like the barred a puff bird here. It's a cool bird. A couple flycatchers also are in the canopy only, that we cannot see it if we just walk the trails. And this is a black-headed toddy flycatcher, and a ring bell for flocks. This is the brown-capped Tyranniolette. Choco trogons occur there, also called black-tailed trogons. Sorry, not black-tailed, blue-tailed trogons. And a couple of woodpeckers occur in the canopies here as well. Cinnamon is this one. Another type of bird, the masked titira, another canopy bird, and another of the choco endemics that we see here, these orange-fronted barbet canopies. And now, after the day has started to heat up, because this is very humid, it turns really cold, we go down to refresh ourselves and to bird the grounds. And eventually, I mean, this is very rare and there is a spot to get it, not in the reserve itself, but I'm just showing pictures of birds that are in the lower parts of the forest. Brown wood-rail, a rare one, difficult. A couple of hummingbirds occur in these areas that are not in other places, like this hermit here, a striped-throated hermit, and band-tailed barb-throat. So those are all in the in the lower parts of the forest. Black-throated trogon is present in the area. Broad-billed mudmoths around. The rare crimson-bellied woodpecker can be seen in this reserve. And a tanager that belongs now to a different family of tanagers, just got split from the normal tanager family, dusky-faced tanager. All these are in the undergrowth, like this orange-billed sparrow, quite a sparrow, eh? And typically another of the typical flock birds that occur in the area is this plain brown wood creeper. And then a couple manakins occur in the lower parts of the forest. This is a white bearded manakin, and red capped manakin also can be seen in there. Ruddy-tailed flycatchers, typically with the flocks there, or sometimes with the flocks there. And this, again, is the ringbill of the flocks there. A ringbill is a bird that, whenever you hear it, you know there's a flock. So this is one in this area. So it is good to know which is the ringbill for any particular given area. Okay, this white-flanked anwren is the one for this area here. White-whiskered puffbird is cool, and that is it for the actual reserve. That it is quite dense, but in the reserve, we have it right here. You can see that it is quite a small patch of forest, really, and you can see, sadly, all the deforestation around. It is because these areas have been, sadly, devastated to turn into palms, and there is a few areas that that have been protected in that, but there is a lot of clearing as well. But the thing with the clearing is that it also gives us another set of birds that are not in the reserve, like the Pacific anwren, like the Pacific ornero, also called pale-legged ornero, and things like black-cheeked woodpecker and Guayaquil woodpecker, normally from areas farther south that are drier, as I was showing you in the map. Lineated woodpeckers are here easier than in any other place of this forest. And also olivaceous piculets is a tiny woodpecker like this. No. You can see gray-headed kites and laughing falcons, typically in some open areas. And another one that it is typically in very open areas, the red-billed scythebill. It's cool for arid. And another one that likes these open areas is this jacamar, rufous-tailed jacamar. Striped cuckoo is a common cool voice in the open areas. And then we move out of the lowlands, Silanche. We backtrack. Normally we have lunch in this town of San Miguel de los Bancos, a very nice place called Mirador del Río Blanco. And we go to another reserve that protects some nice forest, but this time in the foothills. So we backtrack to foothills right here and go to Milpe. And this has a lot of the same birds that we saw already in Mashpi, but there is a couple other places that are not in Mashpi or difficult in Mashpi that you can see here, and particularly this one is the one. Clubwing manakin. It is a bird that does a weird display. It keeps the wings up for like a split second, and we only see it as if it was keeping the wings up. But what it is doing is, in super fast moving, is rubbing its wings against each other and producing a buzzing sound. So I'm gonna play for you the sound of this bird. Is really cool. Listen, this is done with the wings like that. It's very cool, eh? See? That's a really cool thing about this bird. Okay, so going back. This is the cool bird, the cloudwing manakin, the main thing that we see in Milpe Cloud Forest Reserve. But there's another species of manakin that is also really cool, the golden winged manakin. And another one that I always look for in there is the spotted nightingale thrush. Beautiful voice of the forest there is very cool. And another thing that normally is there easier than in other places is this yellow colored chlorophonia. Okay, plus the feeders at this reserve seasonally are super nice, and we can see a couple of species of toucans like yellow-throated toucan here, previously known as chestnut mandibled, and this is the choco toucan. You see that it has a black mandible instead of chestnut, but it is very similar to the previous one. Choco toucan is endemic to the Choco, and this is a colored aracari, and a subspecies that it is called the pale mandibled aracari. All these are taken at the feeders in Milpe. Such a beautiful bird, okay? And the trails can hold a bunch of different things, and the hummingbird feeders hold the white whiskered hermit, another of the Choco endemics, quite a good bird, and the green thorntail. You see, there's a female and the male has this thorny tail. Very cool. And the same with the previous reserve. When we bird the road, we can have stuff like masked water tyrants that are really cool, and olive crown yellow throats, and ornate flycatchers. But the reserve got also eventually this rare umbrella bird. Such a cool bird. Okay, so we're gonna move on to another spot here. Okay, so in another of the day tours that we do from Tandayapa, we go back, let's backtrack to Tandayapa, that it is located right in here, the lodge, and we do a visit that it is quite close. You can see in terms of distance it's very close, but we have to do like a loop there because of the mountains, and visit one of the most famous spots in Ecuador called the Refugio Paz de las Aves. And it is a unique place in the world. I'll be telling you about it. This guy here changed the bird world. Is a superb person, a good friend of mine, Angel Paz. He and his brother created this reserve in order to get some income extra from what they were doing there. He's a farmer, and he started trying to see what he does to get some more money, and people advise him that if he has some good land, he could bring in some people to look for some birds, like you can see here. And he started with a Cock-of-the-Rock leg, and then it escalated to something really amazing. Okay, this is his brother here, and this is his wife. The most important person, actually, because she cooks the brunch that they provide in the reserve. This guy here started this. The Cock-of-the-Rock leg is quite unique. It's a beautiful bird, yes, but it is not a rare bird, and you can see Cock-of-the-Rock legs in a few places. And so he was advised that in order to get something else, he should have some rare birds, and he was advised, or he was told that he has giant antpitta in his property, and he said, "Oh, what is that one?" "Well, it sounds like you can hear it." "Oh yeah, no, so yeah, I've seen that bird," he says. "Okay, cool. So if you have that bird, some more people can come here." And so this guy said, "I want to make sure that people come here, so I want to make sure that they can see this bird." And he, out of the blue, started doing something amazing, that it is taming these antpittas. Okay, this giant antpitta is quite a rare bird. Oh, this is what I was telling you. In this reserve, they provide this brunch. Phenomenal. me stuffing my face with an empanada. This is what I was telling you. They started with the Cock-of-the-Rock leg. Okay, this is a short footage of the Cock-of-the-Rock that I did in his reserve. Superb, superb bird. Very funky sound. They do this every day, this display. But as I was telling you, this display and these bird can be seen easily, but the giant antpitta, no, that one was a completely rarity, as a big rarity, very difficult to get, not as bright as this one, but nobody knew of a nest of this bird until 2006 or 2007 that he found the first nest, for instance. And he started habituating the giant antpitta to come expose in front of visitors. And how he did it was starting feeding it. So antpittas, you know, are these very difficult birds to see, and shy, super shy. But he didn't have the perspective of a ornithologist or a bird guy, like, oh, quiet, there's a giant antpitta calling, so just be careful and don't move, don't move, and we'll probably see this bird. This guy says, well, it kind of looks like a chicken, and I'm gonna feed it. I mean, my chickens come out to me when I feed them. So he started doing this thing, just a complete different approach, and he started feeding it. And so he invited afterwards a couple of guides, and he said, well, I have this Cock-of-the-Rock leg, but I have this friend of mine, come see it. And out of the blue, he pops out a antpitta into the trail, a giant antpitta. And so the visitors went like, whoa. And he calls it Maria. So normally you go very quiet to see this bird, but this guy was like, Maria, Maria, venga, venga, venga. And boom, giant antpitta comes. People were just, wow, if you can do this with the giant antpitta. I heard also that you have a mustached antpitta in your property. You can do that. Oh, what's the sound of a mustached antpitta? Oh, cool. So you can actually have that one as well. 2 weeks later you go, and he goes, Susan, Susan, boom, mustached antpitta, and he feeds it worms. All these are super rare birds, eh? 2 weeks after, you go, well, you should have also yellow-breasted. I heard it. I've heard that. Yeah, I get it. 2 weeks later, you go, Willy, Willy. It goes yellow-breasted antpitta out. And then he goes, well, I heard you also have this one other. This is a ochre-breasted antpitta. Probably you managed, but it's a tiny garalicuda. It's kind of difficult to get. Oh, I'll get it. Don't worry. So 2 weeks later, you go, and this guy's got Shakira. And goes, Shakira, Shakira, venga, venga. And why is it called Shakira, this antpitta? Is because Shakira actually dances. This is kind of a weird looking video, but you see how it shakes its butt, one side and the other. This is the good thing about this antpitta. And then the last addition to antpittas was Andrea. So this place is just incredible. Okay, so through the years he has been building up this list of birds, or these birds, and you go there and see up to 5 species of antpitta in one day. And from here, a lot of people have copied that technique, and you have the Hokotoco antpitta, and you have a lot of antpittas in Colombia, and you have a lot of even pittas in Thailand that people do this too. And but all came from this man, Angel Paz. He also starts feeding wood quails that are super rare. I've never seen really this particular species in the wild by myself. Super difficult, and now this guy has it there, dark-backed wood quail, and sometimes also even anthrushes. You see? So this brought a new spectrum of birding to the world. This is the place you wanna visit. Okay, after we go for the empanada, after the brunch that we do in this reserve, I mean, if it is not enough all the wonderful birds, they also give us this brunch that is superb. We finish the day back to Quito, because normally this is the last day. After 6 days that I have told you about, we go back to Quito, and we bird in the afternoon in Calacali, in this region right in here. And this is a complete different ecosystem. Look, it's dry. So this is scrub, high Andes scrub, kind of desertic with cacti and stuff, and we managed to get there a couple of things that we don't see in the rest of the tour, like golden grosbeak or hooded siskins, sometimes these violet-ear, sparkling, band-tailed seed-eater, and band-tailed Sierra finch, and like that, Cinere's conebill, and also this is a cool one. I love this one. This is a black-tailed train bearer. Another angle of that one. And like that, we close the main tour, the intro tour. This is it. I'll be telling you about the extension in a minute, but before that, I'll show you the area where we go for in the extended version that I'm telling you, the far northwest of Ecuador. In here, this is in these rivers here, Playa de Oro, a much deeper Chocó area that holds a bunch of birds that are unique to that area, okay? And we also bird a bit of the Chical close to the Colombian border in here after some megas that are difficult, okay? This is not part of the intro tour. This is the extended version that we call it the Northwest Ecuador tour. And we rough it right there. The beauty of Tandayapa and the gourmet food is gone, and we go to this more basic lodge that is wooden and hot, no air conditioning, not really a lot of electricity, cold water, but the people there is an Afro-Ecuadorian community that are just so cool, very, very nice, that we love to support them. And they created this lodge, allowing us a chance to go for some of the rarest birds in the planet. One of the most difficult ones is not particularly beautiful. The Sapphire. It's quite enigmatic though. It is actually called Sapphire enigma, a scientific name, because it has the relatives, the closest relatives are not in South America or North America or Central America. The closest relatives are in Asia. So this one here is quite difficult. This is a tough picture that we got there. Tony Palliser's picture is a person I just guided, a very cool guy. And this is Nikathana's picture of that one, Sapphire. Quite an obscure bird, but unique in its own family and everything. And then you go for another rarity, 5-colored barbet, and Choco screech owl. And this is the only place in these areas are the only place in the whole Ecuador that you can get red-legged dagnes that are easier in Central America, but for us is the only place. The same with slaty-tailed trogons, only in the far northwest. And there are a couple of species of antbirds that are here that we don't see elsewhere in Ecuador, like the ocellated antbird, very cool one, and the spotted antbird. All these ant swarms occur here. It's very tough. A lowland terrain to walk on is a little rough, but it is really rewarding. Streak-chested antpittas are there, and this is a tough one as well. It's a Toothpill Hummingbird pictured by Jose, another of the rare birds. And then in order to go for this one, we have to climb up to the Chical area that I was telling you, in this location here, and we get golden-chested tanager. I was showing you this by Andrew Spencer, my friend, and purplish mantled tanager. Okay, this is not lowland. Again, this is foothills and subtropics for these birds here. This is from Tony, again this picture, and this is from Nick, a scarlet and white tanager. So all these rarities, also fulvous dotted tree runner, all these rare birds can only be seen in the far northwest of Ecuador. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to the extension that we actually have for the intro tour. Okay, so the intro tour occurs in the northwest of Ecuador, okay, only on the west slope. But for the extension, we go 2 days to the high Andes here, above 13,000 feet at times, and the upper subtropics in here. Okay, and we spend 1 night in Guango Lodge, and that's it. So the persons that finished and only booked the main tour, finished the main tour, we drop them in Quito, and then we continue with the rest over here to Antisana and Guango. So in terms of altitude, that's the thing that I was telling you, but in terms of distance, really, what we do is we visit these areas that go close to the Antisana volcano, right here. And we go very close to this lake here called La Mica Lake. We're talking about here from 9,000 to 13,000 feet of elevation, so from 2,800 meters to about close to 4,000 meters of elevation that we do in this particular tour. In this particular day is a full morning that we do in Antisana. Okay, this is the panorama. Beautiful place. If we have a clear day, it is breathtaking, just unique. This is a time when I went with my family and friends, really. Here's a friend of mine spotting his girlfriend in yeah. And we have lunch that particular day in this beautiful, beautiful restaurant called Andean Condor. The owner is a local that monitorizes the condors that nest in these cliffs that you can see right in here. Okay, it's a beautiful, beautiful place, and the place is just very nice. And this is the coolest picture on this entire tour. Is me with my daughter, Sarah, in the restaurant that also provides sometimes horseback riding for people that visit there daily. But you have the backdrop, condors flying behind you. Unique place, eh? The areas have these high plateaus, high plains that are just beautiful, and eventually you can have some wildlife like llamas there, or this paramount fox or culpeo fox, and eventually the white-tailed deer. Okay. The main bird, however, I mentioned already, the Andean Condor. That's what everybody wants to see, and we don't get disappointed when we go there. We typically see them, sometimes just far out and sometimes this close. Okay, this is the very main place for that one, and for this one, the Andean ibis, a recent split from black-faced ibis. A beautiful bird that just walks in the plains there. Some of the more common birds include these carunculated caracaras, also in the plains. Beautiful bird, and quite common, allows us to get different angles and different poses. And then there's a bunch of furnaris that we can see, like many striped canastero and striped back canastero, a few passerines, yeah, like stout-billed cinclodes and chestnut-winged cinclodes. The area is really good for raptors, like variable hawk and black-chested buzzard eagles can be around here. There's a nice variable hawk. And a couple rare ones like Cinereus harrier. Very, very cool bird. And we have a couple hummingbirds that are only in these areas, much higher up than in Yanakocha, for instance, like the Ecuadorian hill star. This is a young bird. And we have the best chances to get this guy here, the giant hummingbird. This is a GIF that I did taking pictures with 60 frames per second with my Olympus. It's just a phenomenal camera. Yeah, this is it. So this is a sparkling violet ear, and this is a giant hummingbird. Sparkling violet ear, just to put you on a reference, is probably twice the size of your ruby-throated hummingbird for the people in the US. So you can see the proportion in size, eh? Giant hummingbird. It is quite giant. And we have a couple other passerines like brown-backed chat tyrants and paramount pipits are cool birds to see in these plains, in these open areas, and a couple finches like Plumbeo Sierra finch. And as I was telling you, there is a lake there in which we can get some waterfowl and some other things like grebes, like silvery grebe. We can get Andean duck, Andean teal, yellow-billed pintail, a bunch of stuff in that area. Okay, and then also a couple of antpittas. Tawny antpitta is one of those. This is a young one. It's a cool bird, young tawny antpitta. We finished that day after having lunch in that cool restaurant that is located right in here. We have to do a long drive, and we go back here into the Papayacta Pass. If the weather is fair, I bird the Tandayapa Pass in that afternoon, but if not, we just go directly down to Guango Lodge in here. So basically we move to the other side of the Antisana volcano, you can see here, into the subtropics. You can see that this is forest right here. You see? It is at about 8,000 feet of elevation, Guango Lodge. And Guango is famous for the hummingbirds, and we have a few new ones for the touring here, like chestnut-breasted coronet. Colored Inca is famous in Guango as well, even though we have seen it. We may have missed it before, but this is a good place for that one. And another sylph, the violet-tailed sylph. A rare one that sometimes we can see there, avocet bill. It's called mountain avocet bill. And again, we have a chance for this swordbill in case we have missed it in Yanakocha, which is difficult, but it has happened. Another of the specialties on the east slope only is this tourmaline sun angel. And the white-bellied woodstar is also here, much easier than in any other place. Okay? And then we bird the trails around Guango Lodge that have very nice forests, getting some difficult birds like this dusky piha and gray-breasted mountain toucan, which is a superb bird. And there is a chance to see the Inca jay, a subspecies of the green jay that is typically around Guango. Some bamboo there also brings Rufus headed pygmy tyrant, or toddy flycatcher, sorry. And the Guango River is the famous spot to get torrent duck. This is the male, and these are a couple of chicks, a couple of juvies of the torrent duck. If we haven't seen it in Tandayapa, this is the place. The same obviously with the dipper here. And then the very last day of the tour, I tend to go from Guango Lodge and I bird the area of Papayacta, which again goes really high up, and this is the highest that we're gonna get to 14,000 plus feet. Okay, because there is a couple of birds that occur here that don't occur elsewhere. This is a nice panoramic view of the Tandayapa, of the Papayacta area, and this is one of the things that we tried to get there. We're in the land of the bear. Okay, pretty bad footage really, but a cool thing to see. This was my last time that I saw this bear here. I'm taking this video from the highway so you can hear the trucks behind. This is an Andean bear, or a spectacled bear we can see in Papayacta. It's an awesome animal. But Papayacta is famous for this particular one. It's tough to get, a masked mountain tanager, just to complete the whole set of mountain tanagers. And eventually we can see Andean snipe and a couple other things. The forest there, the mountain forest, holds black-backed bush tanager and pale nape brushfinch. A couple cool birds. And a Viridian metal tail, only in the east side of the Andes and this high elevation. So we pick up a few specialties, agile teat tyrant, for instance, Andean teat spine tail. Again, we have a chance for the many-striped canastero. But then we finish the tour typically on a high note with this bird here that we have to climb up, and it can be quite exhausting to go up a hill for this one. It's a tough bird to get. But from time to time, we can get this rewarded with a rufous-bellied seed snipe, a major target. And sometimes we get it like that. Okay, so finish up the day in the tour in a high note, and this is it, guys. I hope you have enjoyed this intro tour, or main and best selling tour in the company. We run it 3 or 4 times a year, and many times also 3 or 4 times more as custom tours. So I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you liked it. And yeah, so if you liked this video, please don't forget to go down in the comments in the YouTube video. You can see the link to PayPal to support your guides. Please do that, and remember that I invite you to watch other tours that I have done, like the Pantanal in Brazil, or the Warbler tour in the US, the Galapagos in Ecuador, Southeast Brazil, an amazing tour for tanagers, Northwest Argentina, which is superb, Belize with this weird ocellated turkey, and southern Ecuador, which is a superb bird for rarities and other things. Okay, so thanks for watching, and keep tuned for the next season of Tropical Birding Virtual Tours. Don't forget, as I told you, to help all our guides through this COVID time with your donations. Remember, Charlie, Ben, Sam, Jose, Pablo, and I have put a lot of effort on this for entertaining you, and I hope we did. Thank you, guys.